Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. My guest today is Terri Edwards, and she is going to be making a vegan black bean chili and a chocolate mug cake that has no oil. Please welcome her to the show. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Of course, didn't we meet because you blogged about one of my recipes, if I'm not mistaken? Is that correct?
I don't think so.
Then how did we meet? Because I could have sworn that was how I met you.
Sid, Nodder, is it?
Okay, okay, all right. Why did I think you? All right. Well, then you should blog about one of my recipes.
Yes, I should.
Just kidding. Well, that's fantastic. So tell me about your blog, as long as we're talking about your blog.
Yeah, absolutely. The blog is called EatPlant-Based, and it's been around since 2014.
Wow.
Yeah, I started it just shortly after I became plant-based and very passionate about it. And so I started it really to share recipes with mostly family and friends. And then I was teaching some plant-based classes. So anybody who was in the class, it was just a great way to share recipes. And then it took off. So it really, the first 3 or 4 years, it was just, steadily growing. And then since about 2018, it has really taken off. And we get, around 300,000 views a month and people from all over the world. So it's exciting to be able, to share the plant-based message with so many people with that kind of a reach because of technology of all things.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, tell us your story, Terri, about when you became vegan or plant-based and why. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. For me, it began for health reasons, for sure. It's when in about 2013, February 2013 is when we became, my husband is mostly plant-based, but it was for health reasons. I had started having different health issues since about the age of 35. For me, it was, it started even as, actually, it started earlier than that, because when I was 19 years old, I found out I had high cholesterol. And I only weighed 110 pounds. I was a cheerleader, in high school. I was very, just active. So that was a shocker. It was running in the 220s, and I didn't really do anything about it. Back then, I don't even think that was considered, very high or much to be concerned about. But I was aware of it. And, high cholesterol does run in my family. So, that we all kind of feel like as we age to expect that. But 19 was early. Over the years, I developed high blood pressure. You know what? I've got a picture. You want me to show it to you? Can I show you?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be fantastic.
Let's see. Me and technology just have a difficult time. So let's make sure I don't mess anything up. All right. So I will go to share screen and then give me a second.
Take your time.
It's giving me the options for whiteboard and iPhone. Maybe I'll just try this one. No. Do you know what I'm supposed to push for the share screen?
It's usually a green button that's on the very bottom. Oh, it looks like you might have been doing it now. Looks like you're sharing now.
Well, I need to go to the right thing then, Donna. Hold on just a minute.
You just have to have whatever it is pulled up on, because right now you're sharing your email and link.
This is what I want. So this is can you see that?
No, all I see is an email. You have an email up on your desktop. So maybe stop share, put what you want on the screen first, have that be up, and then do share screen.
Okay. It's right here. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't show it because I don't know how to get it to do.
When you click share screen, you have to click the picture. So you must have clicked your desktop or something.
Gotcha. How about that?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, yay, finally. So this is me in 2012 at my daughter's college graduation. And I had a lot going on. This is just a slide off of a PowerPoint that I've done a number of times, but I mentioned the high cholesterol, the high blood pressure. Yeah, I had adult acne that, I had acne as a teenager, which, most of us accept as normal. And, but I didn't outgrow it like so many people do. I continued to have it into the 30s and 40s. I took a prescription called doxycycline for years to control adult acne. I had fibrocystic breast disorder. Some of you ladies who are watching may be familiar with that, may have experienced it yourself, but I found my first in my breast when I was 19. 19 seems to be the going age for my beginning health issues. But by the time I was 30, I had had 2 mammograms and 1 ultrasound for suspicious lumps that all turned out to be the fibrocystic breast issue. But it got to the point, honestly, where I was a little afraid to do self breast exams because I didn't know what I was going to find. And I felt like it was going to send me back to, getting the test and everything again. So I was always a little fearful. I had developed sleeping problems over the years and was taking melatonin or Tylenol PM every single night. Not kidding. I just couldn't get to sleep. I had hormonal problems. The thyroid issue is a little different. I I was putting on makeup one morning when I was probably about 35, 37. And so I was rubbing, the makeup on my neck. And that's when I realized I had a lump in my neck, which was very scary, of course, and sent me to the doctor. And they did a ultrasound, a biopsy, they did medication. Nothing seemed to take it was a nodule away. So I ended up having surgery. And along with the nodule, they took almost half of my thyroid. And then I was on thyroid medication for 13 years. And I cannot say that thyroid's a little different issue, because some of those things cannot be controlled with diet. I know that certainly a good plant-based whole food diet would help, certainly can't hurt. But I did find out 13 years into taking the medication, back then when I had the surgery, they thought that everybody who had any part of their thyroid removed would be on medication for the rest of their lives. And so that was the routine. Every 6 months you go for blood work and then they adjust your medication. And I was on that roller coaster. But then I read an article that said that, studies were showing that if anybody had thyroid surgery to remove some of it, there is a chance that as long as there is a portion of your thyroid still there, that you may not have to be on medication. So I worked with my endocrinologist and I took the article to her and I said, hey, what about this? And she said, absolutely, let's try it. So she worked with me and we weaned me off of my thyroid medication. And that's been a long time ago. So actually, that's probably been 6, 7 years ago. And they monitored me for years. And, now I seem to be just fine. I'm one of those very lucky people who have enough the thyroid left to be okay without the medications, which I was thrilled about. But even with all of these medical issues that I had at 45, they weren't the main problem for me. The main problem was my joints. That had started at age 35, and it had started, even though I was steadily gaining weight, you would think of joint problems starting in weight-bearing joints, but for me, it didn't. It started in my hands, of all things, fingers, and just making a fist or even going to grab a doorknob would set me off. Just a lot of pain. And over 10 years, it spread. It wasn't just my hands anymore. It was my hips and my knees and my neck and my back. Everything got involved. And it was even more scary for me, I think, because rheumatoid arthritis runs in my family. My mom has been disabled. I'm 55. My mom's been disabled since she was probably 52 or 53. with rheumatoid. She has a lot of other health issues as well, but rheumatoid is the driving factor for her. And unfortunately, just this year, I have a sister who is 16 months older than me, and she found out she has rheumatoid. She said she knew it because she felt it coming on, for years, but now that she's been diagnosed with it. So guess what? She's hitting plant-based hard and having some great results. So I'm hoping to be able to share her story in the next few months anyway. But these are the problems that I was dealing with. And then my daughter asked me to watch Forks Over Knives. How many times have you heard people say that was the start for them? Forks Over Knives. That was in 2013. In one of the very first documentaries that came out, maybe around 2011, something like that. I actually put her off, my daughter, for nearly a year of not watching it, just because time, and she had me watch other things before, not health related. I didn't know Forks Over Knives was really, I didn't know what it was about, but finally I watched it just so that when she called and said, "Did you watch it?" I could finally say, "Yes, ma'am, I did." So, but I wasn't prepared when I sat down to watch Forks Over Knives for the information. I was just floored with the research, 40, 50 years, and all of the scientists and physicians that were on there. And with all the doctor's visits I had, nobody ever mentioned plant-based diet to me, and I know they never mentioned it to my mom in the beginning. So I was a little maybe hesitant because it seemed I had tried a lot of other things, to help with my health issues without any success. So, you kind of don't get your hopes up really high with stuff like that. But I thought the evening that I watched it, I said 4 weeks. I told my husband 4 weeks. I want to give it to see what it can do, if anything, and we'll just see. And the funny thing was, I didn't have to convince my husband because he saw me suffering. He knew my mom's health. The evening that I went to watch Forks Over Knives, just in the living room, there was some ball game on. My husband loves sports, and he said, "I am not watching that with you." And I said, "It doesn't matter to me because I don't want to watch it either." And so he went about his business, but that game got delayed. And as I was watching it in the living room, I saw him coming back and forth, and eventually he was sitting in his chair until the game started, and then he took off. So he didn't watch the whole thing, but he watched enough so that when I approached him, when it went off and said, "I'm going to do this for 4 weeks," he said, "I'm in." He said, "As long as the food tastes good," he said, "I'll do it too." He didn't have really many medical issues, but his cholesterol was definitely running high. If my memory serves me correctly, his cholesterol was running like 307, and his doctor was wanting to put him on medications, and he kept fighting it and everything. But he went plant-based with me, and within, it's been a long time, so it's really hard to remember, but I would say 2.5 weeks, something like that. The first things that I noticed were that I was sleeping better without taking anything. I will say too, speaking of taking anything, to control my joint problems, during the day, I was taking ibuprofen way above the recommended daily allowance for it every single day, just because that's what I had to do to get through. And so I noticed I was taking less medicine, sleeping better, the acne was clearing up, and joints were moving better. So I thought, man, I was convinced. Even 2.5 weeks, I would say I was convinced enough to. My husband came home from work one day, and I was in the kitchen, and I was down on my hands and knees with my head in the refrigerator, and I was just throwing things, and he was like, "What in the world is wrong with you?" But I had bins behind me: give away, throw away, donate. I was convinced that the food in my kitchen was making me sick, and so I cleaned out everything: the cabinets, the refrigerator, the freezer, everything. And that was the beginning of it all for us. And we'll celebrate our 10-year planiversary in February. So I'm gonna tell it to quit the screen share so we can go back. But yeah, that was our story. My husband's cholesterol dropped down to, I think it's 157. And I'm completely medication free now. I don't take anything other than B12. I am good to go, and so thankful. I became very passionate about plant-based nutrition. People ask me sometimes, how do you stay on it, for this long? When you've got health problems, that's a big motivator. Pain is a huge motivator for keeping me, other than, I just feel better all the way around. And I believe in plant-based nutrition. So I took that Eat Cornell class with Dr. Campbell that he does, which was awesome, and I highly recommend it. And then applied to the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. So I started teaching for them in 2015, and was very, very active until COVID hit. I focused on medical facilities. I taught at our Spartanburg Regionals in South Carolina, a heart wellness center. I taught at Gibbs Cancer Center. Both of those, I live in North Carolina, but we're right on the state line. So I taught in North Carolina and South Carolina, mainly at medical facilities, even all the way up in Asheville, and shared the message. I think probably the reason, more than likely, that I focused on medical facilities was because nobody told me. Nobody mentioned plant-based nutrition to me until, maybe 6 months into it, I went back to my family physician. It's a small, I live in a very small area. There were probably 4 doctors in that practice, and I didn't need their help. I did want my numbers checked. I wanted my cholesterol and all that checked, but I didn't need anything from them. I wanted to go in and say, look what I did. Because by that time I'd lost a good bit of weight. I lost about 50 something pounds. At that point, I'd probably lost about 40. And I just wanted to say, look at this. You need to tell your patients about this. And everything came back so great. And when they said, what are you doing? I said, I went plant-based, and started to explain. And they said, oh, yeah, 3 of the doctors that are part of this practice are Seventh-day Adventists, and they're plant-based. And my jaw dropped, because I was like, wait a minute, why did nobody tell me about it? And at that time, the doctor explained that there weren't resources, and that would have been 2013. She said there weren't resources, even if they wanted to, advise patients to do it, they didn't have ways to help them do it. So I focused on medical facilities and went in. When I became licensed with the Physicians Committee, I baked oatmeal walnut raisin cookies and took in literature from PCRN and my classes and said, I am going to be your resource. So use me. And that's how it all started. And then, the website took off. And so that's what takes up my time now. But yeah, that's, I got my health back because of plant-based nutrition. And so that's the reason I keep at it. And I know you did too, AJ. I've looked up your story and how you were able to recover so many things, and especially that weight loss. So yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Well, Kathy says Terri has so many good recipes on her website. I have a cookbook binder section of some I printed out. Thank you, Terri.
Thank you for following.
Yeah. Well, that's quite a story. I guess you must feel really wonderful now.
I do. I really do, all the way around. I feel wonderful with my health. I feel wonderful to be able to share the plant-based message, and just, to people who are suffering with medical problems. Actually, we had Thanksgiving here with my family just this last week, and a gentleman came that I knew. He was, married into the family, but I don't know him well. And my dad had told him what I do. And so he said, he said he had just gotten diagnosed with diabetes, and did I have any suggestions? And the first thing, we were sitting there eating, and I said, if you go to my website and type in diabetes, there's Dr. Barnard has articles on there about diabetes, and there are other things. And then I said, you know what, I'm getting ready to bless you. So I just got up, left, went to my office, and grabbed Dr. Barnard's book about preventing and reversing diabetes. And I said, here you go. Please read it, and let me know if you got any questions. So, there's opportunities all around to help people who are scared with new doctors with diagnosis from their doctors. And so, hey, I love to jump in and be the one to say, you know what, there's hope.
That's wonderful. What did you end up making for Thanksgiving?
I made it's shepherd's pie. It's made with lentils and mashed potatoes on the top. I made broccoli slaw or broccoli salad. I made baked beans. I made Kim Campbell's pumpkin pie. I made my chocolate cake it's made with sweet potatoes and chocolate icing. I made so many things. Let me think. I think that was most of it. That's all I can think of at the moment. That I made a lot. And I'm going to be honest, everybody in my family is not plant-based, and we had like, I don't know, 25 or so folks here, and so they brought their turkey and stuff, and that's fine. I'm not going to cook it, but they can do their own thing. But I love, even though we're all in this kitchen mixed with different diets and things, everybody just about it has some kind of medical issue. And so when they start bringing up the broccoli salad and liking it, I can, that's an opportunity to share about the plant-based message, about how good the fixed great way to show how good food can taste, even though it's healthy.
Cool. Well, let's see. What are you going to make for us today, Terri?
I am going to make, the first recipe is called Yes You Can Chili, and it is a physicians committee recipe that we have used in classes so many times. They have a couple of chili recipes, but my sister helped me one time when I was teaching at the Cancer Center, just to be extra hands in the class. And before that, she had always seen me make the other chili recipe, which is delicious. But this one's so easy. After class, she said, don't do the other one anymore, do this one. And it's been, because it's easy and because it tastes good, it's been a great success. And it only really has 3 ingredients. There are 2 optional toppings that I'm going to show you. But the three ingredients are black beans. You can make your own. They do have to be cooked. You can make your own fresh in your Instant Pot. If you do them in the Instant Pot, like on high, you cook for 30 minutes and then a slow release for maybe like 15, 20 minutes. Or you can use canned. For the classes, we always use canned beans, and we just dump them in a colander and rinse them and then use them. So this is 2 cans, so it's 3 cups of cooked black beans. Yeah, you can see this. I was playing with where the camera is and what you can see and what you can't. So I'm going to put those into our pot, and we'll go ahead and heat it up.
Terri, Jennifer wants to know how you were able to get into the facilities to help people.
That was tricky. I'm not going to kid you. But it's funny because I went to Washington, D.C. For training with the Physicians Committee. And after I was selected, because you have to go, people ask me if it's a course, and it's not, a course like the E. Cornell course, it's not. With the Physicians Committee, you apply. It's more like a job. And you apply, and then they go through the applications maybe twice a year now. And you're chosen, and then you do a phone interview. And then if you're elected, then you go to DC. I think they even have the online training now since COVID has hit. But I went to DC and went for training. Before I went, I contacted the local cancer center. I had a heart for the cancer patients. And, I just did a search online for who was their community coordinator person at the hospital, reached the right person, and sent her an email and said, I'm about to go to DC to train for this. I would like to talk to you when I get back. And she said, go do your training and come. And so I did. Now, it was a process because they wanted me, I had to turn in everything from the Physicians Committee, all of the curriculum that we use, the books, the DVDs, everything. Their oncology had to approve it all, which is, only right. But once I got in to that one place, then I could go to other medical facilities and say, I teach at this cancer center, and they were much more open. So it was a matter of getting my foot in to the right person. So that was key. All right, so corn, this is frozen corn that I have defrosted just by running, putting it in the colander and running warm water over it. So we've got the black beans, the corn, and then salsa. You can make your own salsa. I have a salsa recipe on my website that's really easy to make. It's just, tomatoes and garlic and onions and cilantro. I put a little chipotle in mine and lime juice and garlic powder. So it was 3 cups of the black beans, 1 cup of the corn, and 2 cups salsa. And you can get the bulk salsa. In my house, it's kind of funny because I like a little heat, and so I would buy medium salsa if I was doing it, but my husband does not like heat. So what I do is cook it mild sauce in the mild salsa and then add sriracha afterwards. So I'm going to stir this. I'm going to turn it down a little bit because this doesn't have to cook. It's really just heating. And so I'm going to turn it down on low, let it do its thing. And I'm going to talk to you about the toppings that are completely optional, but I think personally, they really do make the recipe. I mean, they just take it up a notch. So the 2 optional things are cilantro. And yes, I know, after teaching classes to hundreds and hundreds of people, there are some pretty passionate folks about cilantro. Either they love it or they can't stand it. So one thing when I was teaching classes, this was always on the side. To some people, it's a medical thing that tastes like, they said, soapy water. I am not one of those people because I eat it like a salad. It is so good. I love cilantro, but I do understand that some people don't like it. You don't have to use it. But, if you like salsa and you buy salsa, you're already eating it because it's in salsa. But, with the cilantro, a lot of people will cut off, the stems, and you can, but there's so much flavor in it. And to me, it seems kind of like a waste to do that. So I just like to roll it up. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. I just kind of roll it up, and then just slice it, stems and all, because I love the flavor. And you make the stems so small you can't even, it's not a texture thing if they're really tiny. And it smells so good. I use a lot of cilantro all the time on veggie and rice bowls. As far as keeping it, because I do get questions about how do you make it last, just like this. I bring it home, wash it, of course, put it in a glass with water, and then I put like the plastic vegetable bag that you get with it, just put it over it and put it in the refrigerator. I change the water about once a week. I go through a lot of cilantro, but I do know if you do this process to keep it fresh, it will stay 2-3 weeks and can keep using it. So doesn't have to go bad. Don't leave it in those little bags that, it's not going to last long that way. Put it in water. That's the way to keep the cilantro fresh. And then the other topping, let me stir this real quick just to make sure we don't get any. Yeah, it looks pretty too. It's called, about eating the rainbow. I'm sure your guests talk about eating the rainbow all the time, and this is very colorful. A line. I like to press it and then slice it and serve the chili with wine wedges, and just let them squeeze it over the top. It really brings out the flavor. That, so you can see, brings out so much flavor. Anytime I'm serving cilantro, I love to include lime because they pair so well together. So let's see what we got. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I'm going to set that without breaking anything. And yeah, I knew I had it. So I've got a bowl. I'm going to show it to you. I'll move it to the, actually, let me show it to you in the pan. I'm show you what I'm going to do in the bowl as far as the toppings. Can you see? Does it look yummy?
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
So spread it off.
Do you ever just make it in, Terry, do you ever just make the chili in the Instant Pot?
You could. The only thing is it's so quick anyway. An Instant Pot really is just to speed things up. You don't get much faster because this heats in 10 minutes. So, I mean, you could, but I don't think you'd be really saving much time because the Instant Pot has to build up pressure and then it has to cook. So honestly, if you really want to take the lazy girl or boy way out of it, hey, I'm all about that. Put it in the microwave. I know some people are passionate about not liking the microwave, but science is what I'm going by. So I do use my microwave. You can just put it in the microwave. When people are traveling, this is the easy thing to take. I mean, if you're traveling, you probably would have to take canned corn, which I'm not thrilled about. I mean, health-wise, I'm sure it's fine. It just isn't as tasty, and frozen's always, or fresh is always better. But this would be mix it up before, and then take it with you in a cooler and then heat it up in the microwave if you're in a hotel or something. But all right, so we got this. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of the cilantro and squeeze a little bit of the lime juice there. And I love lime, so I thought I had yeah. So bon appetit, yes? Yummy?
Yum,
So
yum.
10 minutes, you can have this on the table. We eat it as is. Sometimes I will make cornbread because we're in the South. We love cornbread, and we'll, serve it with cornbread. You could even make some, just bake some tortillas, make the chips, and then throw some of the tortilla chips in here to, scoop with, or just to make it even more substantial. But, to us, this is simple and delicious. I think the thing with going plant-based that I heard people ask about, one of the things I heard the most questions about was, how to make it easy. And I think the problem is we're so used to convenience. It's so easy when you're running late from work and you need to get home and make dinner to go through a drive-through, and you're passing them the whole way. It's just so easy to stop at the drive-through. The key is make sure you've got things at home on hand that you don't have to run into the grocery store for. Like the black beans, make it easy. Have the cans ready. The frozen corn, those things are going to be on hand. You don't have to worry about them going bad and all that. Just have these things on hand so driving past those fast food restaurants, it's going to take me 10 minutes to make supper. I can do this. So, being prepared, having a kitchen stocked full of healthy foods, very much key.
Does the chili freeze well?
It does freeze well. And that's another thing. Freeze it in, individual portions or enough for your family. And I've frozen it many times, and it does great. So you really simple and ease of use. It certainly does. And it's so full of fiber with all of the beans, and that's going to help fill you up. If you wanted to add, some brown rice to it, I would definitely add it cooked, unless you're planning to let it stay in the pot. I mean, I would add it cooked. It would just be easier. But yeah, you could do things like that to bulk it up even more, and it would go further as far as feeding more people for longer.
Wow. What else do you batch cook, Terri?
Soup very often, and even cornbread. It's just me and my husband now. We've got the empty nest. So when I make cornbread, I make a whole pan of it. And so I at all times, I keep soup, cornbread. I keep my cheese sauce in the freezer often. It's easy to make the cheese sauce, but while I'm doing it, I like to just make a triple batch. And then when we want to have tacos or pizza or lasagna or anything, then making the cheese step, it's done. We've got that ready to go. I will say, when I freeze my cheese sauce, I do, after it defrosts, I do spin it in the blender just to get that consistency, because when we go on vacation, which we did in October. Every October we go to this really old, actually 100-year-old cabin in Tennessee, and we rent it for a week. And there's nothing around, and I love it. They don't even have a TV there. They don't have internet. I do have to hotspot so that I can work a little bit. They don't have TV or phone, or we're roughing it. And but they do have a kitchen, and so I take all of the food. We don't leave the park once we get there, And I always take my cheese sauce, and we always make we always make nachos the very first night that we go. And so we've got all the taco bean mixture and the cheese sauce and the salsa and all that kind of stuff. And then later on during the week, I also take, of course, potatoes. Who can live without potatoes? But I take some really good baking potatoes. And while I'm hiking the trails, I'll leave those baking in the oven. And when we get back for dinner time, I'll crack the potatoes open and then pull out all of the leftover nacho stuff. And we have a taco potato. So, just things that we do for traveling are simple and delicious. And we get to enjoy staying healthy and enjoy being away from home too. So it's great.
Nice. Linda says, do you serve anything with it other than either cornbread or chips?
You really could serve anything that you want. You could do corn on the cob. There is corn in here. We tend to keep corn on the cob around here a good bit, but it just seems like, or a big baked sweet potato would be awesome too. We bake a lot of sweet potatoes. And so corn on the cob and baked sweet potatoes are two things, we do as side dishes a lot. You could do a salad, of course. A green salad would be a great side dish to go along with it. Another great way to get more greens in. So, yeah.
Nice. You're going to make a cake too, aren't you?
Yes, but it's an individual cake. So it's a mug cake.
That's perfect to be individual.
It's perfect for what?
To be in individual servings.
Yeah, it really is. It keeps you from overeating. We were on a kick not too long ago of doing these mug cakes every Sunday afternoon. We've kind of gotten away from it. I don't know why. I guess we just recently moved. We renovated my husband's parents' old farmhouse. And so it was an old block house that had never been painted or anything, built in, I think, 53. It took us over 2 years to renovate this thing. So we have been pretty busy and kind of gotten off of our regular routine. So we haven't, we're doing things differently. I hadn't had this in a while. So I'm going to enjoy it after after we are done with the show. I'm going to get to eat this and I'm going to love it. So but it's really simple to make. So you start out with 2 rounded tablespoons of flour. This is whole wheat flour. I know a lot of folks are avoiding gluten. You can easily do it with oat flour. And I'm wondering if probably a lot of your folks know, your followers know, that you can make your own oat flour as long as you've got oats in your cupboard. Just take them for a spin in your blender for a minute or two, depending on the strength of your blender, and you got oat flour, and it's way cheaper than buying like Bob's Red Mill or oat flour or anything. But this is whole wheat flour. And another thing I love about this is the only dish, because of course, when I'm doing it, I don't have all these little tiny dishes I'm going to have to wash after this. I'm reaching into the bag of flour with my spoon. So the only dish that I have to wash is the coffee mug. And who couldn't love that? So 2, when I say rounded tablespoons of oat flour, not flat. I heap them up just because the coffee cups, I like to fill it as much as I can with that. So rounded tablespoons. I've got 2 level tablespoons of cocoa powder. So if you're not as crazy, because this is going to have more of a dark chocolate taste because it is 2 tablespoons. If you'd rather it not be like dark chocolate, then maybe use a tablespoon and a half of the cocoa. And so then we've got, I heard something. It's my air coming on. It sounded like wind was blowing in here. All right, so then 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. That's going to help it rise. And this is baking soda, or not soda, but powder. So 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. And then applesauce. This is a tablespoon of applesauce. When I'm doing a lot of baking, I always keep unsweetened applesauce on hand. This is just the Aldi's brand. It's nothing fancy, and definitely here in the States, Aldi's is a great place to get things because it's much less expensive. I even found they used to have these little cups with the applesauce, like children would eat it, and I kept those in my cabinet. But when I went back recently, they had the squeezies. I'm not sure why they. This is fine, but you know what? Maybe I do like this better because you can recap it with once you peeled the top off of those other cups, you couldn't. So I just took a tablespoon from here. But when I'm baking cakes, and it's going to be a lot of applesauce, I use the big, and I don't use enough of it to go through this before it goes bad. So after I open it and use what I need for big baking projects, then I freeze it in like 1 cup servings. And then I pull it out as needed. So that's another nice, easy way to do it. So we've got a tablespoon of applesauce, and sometimes I add a little bit more than that. I think it just helps keep it moist in the middle. And we've got a little bit of vanilla extract. Let me see how much of that. Half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and maple syrup. I lost my place. 2 tablespoons. 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, and 2.5 tablespoons of plant milk. I'm using almond milk. You could really use soy milk, cashew milk, any of those that you prefer. I'm going to go ahead and stir before I add in the last 2 ingredients that are optional, because they're chunky, and I'm going to do this so that I can get a nice smooth texture. Did y'all see that? It spill right out.
Yeah.
But if you have a small whisk, that works great too. But this should work out to be exactly the right size that we need for, a coffee mug, not a tiny little teacup because it'll bubble out, but a nice coffee mug size, then this is going to be perfect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add like a teaspoon. Yeah, a teaspoon of crushed walnuts, optional. You don't have to. I like having the texture in there. And that's one of the reasons I stirred everything else before I put this in, because the rest of it is smooth. And then the last thing is 1 tablespoon of non-dairy chocolate chips. Again, optional, but it does really kick up the flavor for this. And as far as what do I use, I buy the Enjoy Life. It's nut-free, soy-free, dairy-free, all that. I just order them on Amazon. So they're nice. And I keep those in the freezer. We don't use a ton of them. So I just keep a bag in the freezer to have for when we are making desserts, which it's Christmas time. So we are getting in the baking season. So just going to make sure, one thing when you're stirring this up, just make sure that you get to the bottom, because the dry can settle down there. If you cook it and it's not stirred well, then you're going to have a powdered bottom. And then
Nobody wants a powdered bottom except for a baby.
That's good. That's very good. Yeah. So, and I'm hoping I have had those surprises a number of times, from getting in a hurry and sticking them in there and then get to the bottom and it's like egg. But yeah, I'm going to put it in here for a minute. Microwaves vary, and this is a new microwave to me, and I have not made this since this microwave. So I should have tested it out, but see what we get here. We'll put it on just a tad. So we'll let it do its thing. And then I'm going to top it with some raspberries and blueberries. Again, optional, don't have to, but they are delicious and they're really pretty. If you're serving it to somebody, then it is really pretty. I will say one thing about the cooking time too. In my old microwave, it took exactly 1 minute and 5 seconds because you get it down to an art. And when I say that was perfect, it was perfect for me because I like to have it still a little bit wet in the middle, just a little bit. I'm not crazy about real dry, getting it cooked all the way. So fudgy's a better word. I kept it fudgy in the middle. So that was perfect for that. We'll see about this microwave. Like I said, I should have done a test run, but Yeah, I didn't. So here we are. But yeah, so this is an easy thing to make if you have guests over and don't, another thing when I bake, a lot of times I'll keep baked goods in the freezer. So well, I'm very blessed. I have a lot of family that lives around me, not my family and my husband's family too, because we both grew up around here. And Sunday afternoons, any given day, there'll be guests here. So if I don't have anything like a cake or cookies frozen, then I can defrost them. I can always make a mug cake. Oh, yum, yummy, yum. So then it smells absolutely fabulous. And you can see in the middle, well, you can see I've got cocoa on my hands, but in the middle, it's still a little
It's
bit
still gooey. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like it like that, AJ?
Sure. Who wouldn't? Yeah.
I don't know. To me, that's more of a hot fudge cake texture and feel to it. So that's my thing. But yeah, then I would just toss on some. This could, all this red and blue made me think of 4th of July. It'd be a good one for 4th of July celebrations. So yeah, so easy. We're talking a minute.
What if
To
you want,
minute.
what if you have a lot of people you want to feed?
Well, I would probably bake my chocolate cake with chocolate icing because it would go a whole lot. It'd be a whole lot easier than. It wouldn't be real time. It depended on how many people. If it was a whole lot of people, definitely bake a cake. I made the chocolate cake and chocolate icing. Oh, this was funny. I made the chocolate cake and chocolate icing for Thanksgiving, and I have a brother that loves to give me a hard time. Now, he loves my food, but he loves to give me a hard time. And I wasn't in here in the kitchen because we have this little table in the front and we had used it for a dessert table. And my husband said he saw Michael, my brother, with a big old dessert plate full of my chocolate cake. And my husband, Mickey, told Michael, that's vegan and it's lower in fat and everything. And he said Michael will shovel it into his mouth saying, nope, it's not. Nope, it's not. So he didn't, he couldn't believe that it tasted so much like what he was used to, that he just, and he couldn't believe it had sweet potatoes in it. So I call that a win.
That's amazing.
Yeah. One
Do you
thing
ever,
that I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you ever make it in other flavors?
The mug cake,
Yeah.
I have not, but that would be an excellent idea. You could do so many, strawberry or vanilla or whatever you wanted to. That's a really good idea. It's just the convenience of it. And like I said, when I started making it, that's all you got to wash. That's so good, but because you're not going to have all these little fancy foo-foos that I use for demonstrations. So you got a fork, and a cup. So, hey, make all the flavors that you want and play in the kitchen.
That's fantastic. Well, I love your recipes because they're so easy.
Thank you. And, I will say, if somebody is new, I'm guessing we're talking to the choir with your following, because if they're following you, I'm assuming they're eating pretty healthy. But if there are folks who are new, and aren't cooks and really don't want to do much cooking, or you got family that you want to encourage to do this and they're not cooks, on the website, if you go to the search bar and type in Jeff Novick or 10 Simple Meals, his 10 Simple Meals are on the website. And you want to talk about easy, all 10 of them can be made in 15 minutes, and probably most of them in 10 minutes, just from rice and frozen vegetables and some seasonings. He just makes it very simple for those wanting to try this without becoming a chef. I don't consider myself a chef at all. I haven't been trained. I grew up, in my grandmother and my mother's kitchen and learned to cook Southern dishes. And you know what? I enjoy cooking more now than I did even before going plant-based, because before, you're just making recipes. Now it feels like art and science, because I'm trying to make the recipes pretty. I'm trying to make them taste good. I'm trying to make them healthy. So it's kind of a fun challenge and a rewarding challenge when you see like Michael shoveling in sweet potato chocolate cake and just loving it. And I'm going, yeah. So
So cool. Well, Tony, who's watching live, says when she wants a printed recipe, all she has to do is follow the link you gave to your blog, and then there's a button on your blog where you can print the recipe.
yes, and there's any of the recipes that you go to, because I know I understand people don't want to scroll. The things that are at the top of the page, I'm sharing. Usually, they're called in-process photos, where I'm showing you the steps, and I don't fluff them as far as just adding personal information. I try to share information about the ingredients, anything about health. I think all the stuff that I add is important, but if people just want to get to the recipe, at the very top of the page, there's a jump to the recipe button. At the very top, it'll scroll you all the way down to the recipe card where it's got the ingredients, measurements, everything, and a print button. So it's easy. If you want to learn more, as far as any tips that I have or anything, then you can scroll back up and see anything that I might have mentioned that makes it easier, or just something that hopefully will be helpful.
Great. Do you exercise, Terri, regularly?
Good question. Yes, I do. We live on a lot of family land. We're in the boondocks. I'm not kidding. I love it. So I have access to we actually live in an equestrian area. We used to have horses when my daughter was young, but we don't have horses now. But the horse trails, the equestrian trails, they go everywhere. I used to walk those all the time with my dog, but they kind of got strict about that, and they don't want walkers on the trail. So thankfully, we are blessed with family. We've got like probably 100 acres right here that belong to family and friends, and they let us. When I say us, I mean me and Marley. Marley's my 2-year-old German Shepherd, and we walk every day, most of the time twice a day. We usually get in about 3 to 4 miles a day. We take our long walk in the morning, and then because we go to 2 different parts of the trail, she loves to play in the water. And my nephew has just moved in next door to our old home, and he and his wife are renting. They've got a dog named Gunner that's about the same size as Marley, and they're playmates. So you should see us in these fields just walking around and on the trails and stuff. But I walk 3 to 4 miles 6 days a week, and on the 7th day, I'll probably walk about a mile or so. And then I do yoga. When I was having the joint problems and I first went plant-based, I don't know, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 weeks into being plant-based, when I was noticing that my joints were feeling better, I saw something. I bet, actually, I have the story on my website now, but it wasn't on my website at the time. Arthur Borman, he was a paratrooper who had been injured, and he did yoga. I was so inspired by him that I went and signed up for a yoga class. And so now I do yoga. I do it at home now. At first, I took classes 3 days a week, usually 30 to 40 minutes, which I have found are it's excellent for joints. And so I walk and I do yoga. I went through a phase in my life when I first started having weight issues, which was when my weight issues started when I was in my mid to late, actually probably late 20s, after the birth of my daughter. Now, I gained 70 pounds when I was pregnant with my daughter. I do not advise that. And ever since then, I had issues keeping the weight off. And so I went through a time where I was walking and running 50 miles a week, in addition to biking 20 to 30 miles a week. I was just killing myself, and I didn't love it. Some people love all that, and I didn't. I was doing it to keep the weight off. And then over time, the weight with metabolism slowing down and everything, it just started coming back. So I got away from it. But I never gave up walking because of where we live, and I'm a walker. I identify as a walker for sure. It's not just exercise for me. Actually, walking for me is the least exercise in my mind. It's more emotional. It's more spiritual for me. It's my prayer time. I would, I walked even during my sickest times when I was having the most health problems. I walked. It was not enough to keep the weight off, and it was not enough to keep the medical problems away. But combined with a plant-based lifestyle diet, then it made all the difference. So yeah, I still walk, I still do yoga, and I do plant-based, and am able to feel whole again. Truly feel like, I think my thing, and my family's, is feeling like your genetics are controlling you. If you look at my mom, I'm sure she's going to watch this later, and she's been terrified that her kids would have her health issues. And now my sister is starting to go down that path, that I'm so thankful that she is hitting. She found, I can't think of his name is it Craig? I can't, anyway, plant-based. I saw him speak in person one time. I can't think of his name. It's just gone poof, but he has RA. He went plant-based. And my sister is following him. Paddington, is it Paddington? I think.
Oh, Clint Paddington from the with the rheumatoid arthritis.
Exactly. My sister got, I had sent her a link to him. I heard him speak one time at the Asheville, actually it was Plant Stock with Rip Esselstyn. That group, he spoke, and I went to listen to him as one of the speakers because of my family history, and loved him. So when my sister got diagnosed just a couple of months ago, I sent her the link. She jumped on it with all 4 feet. She is all over him and she's hit plant-based. She lived in Japan for a while, and she is going to be, what would I call her? A recipe developer for me now, with some Asian sushi and stuff. She is working on it, and she is already seeing success with changing her diet to be more in line with what, with plant-based and low fat and all, already seeing great results. So I'm hoping to do a story on her, that she's going to be a recipe developer for me, and do all kinds of yummy Asian recipes. So she's a great cook.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. There's a very nice comment, a couple of nice comments about you in the chat. There's one from Clark. I love Terry's recipes. I've been following her Facebook posts for a long time. Good to see her in person on my favorite Chef AJ YouTube show. And there was another nice comment from Apple. What a delightful guest, so peaceful and kind.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. I think that thrills my heart, because encouraging words like that, it's good. So thank you. Thank you.
Anything next for you? You're going to maybe write a book?
I get asked that a good bit, and I really want to. I hope to be able to do that. There are a couple of things reasons that I haven't done it yet. One is the time commitment. It's big, and the website keeps me very, very busy. And then 2, I mean, I know you've written a couple of books. Am I correct? There are a lot of upfront expense in writing a book?
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends if you publish or go with a publisher. There can be, or there doesn't have to be.
Yeah, we may have to talk later then, because I would love to do that. I hear that question so often, and I would so love to do it. And I keep hoping that the opportunity, my philosophy on it has been, when the time is right, an opportunity will present itself, and then I will follow. So I just keep waiting and hoping.
Or you just got to make your own opportunity. That's always been my motto.
Yeah, maybe I do. So maybe I need to, what they call, pick your ear later about those, because you're the professional with that. So I have your book and I love it.
Oh, thank you. I'm just curious, what's the most popular recipe on your blog?
Well, I have to say something. I did share one of your recipes.
Well, that's why I thought I knew you. I could have sworn that that's how we met.
And then your black bean soup.
Thank you.
Black bean soup.
See, I thought that's how I asked you to be on the show, that you were so kind to blog about my book.
You are so right. See, I have a number of people who are kind enough, as you are, to allow us to publish their recipe from their book. And I completely I don't know, my brain, it's been fried between the holidays and moving into the new house and everything. I'm hoping it's all going to settle in really, really soon. But yes, your black bean soup is amazing, and I have your book, and I love your book. So thank
Well,
you.
thank
And
you.
what was your question?
Maybe I'll put a link to that in the show notes so people can
Please
see.
do. Yes. And if you don't mind, maybe in a couple of months or something, maybe we can share another one. Would that be all right?
Absolutely. I would love it. Thank you
Okay,
very
awesome.
much.
I
That's
will get
very,
back with you because I would love to do that. And I'm going to be in your bundle this time.
oh, I can't wait. Well, that's great. I'm so happy to hear that.
And was there a question that I didn't get to about?
No, I just wanted to ask you what the most popular recipe on your blog was.
For views, it's my cheese sauce. It's my cheese
Wow.
sauce and my hash brown casserole that includes the cheese sauce. And this time of the year, the views for that go way up, but consistently year round. The cheese sauce, who knew? I have a number of different cheese sauces. I've got the one that tastes more like cheddar, and then I've got some mozzarella. I've got some that you can, put the agar in and slice it, but the original cheese sauce recipe is by far the number one popular recipe on there. So, and
Now
I'm
I
thankful.
now I got to look that up.
Yeah.
It's just called cheese sauce.
Yeah, I think the title of that one is just Best Cheese Sauce. And yeah, it's made
Oh,
with
you've got two.
potatoes.
You've got a sweet potato cheese
Yeah.
sauce and a best vegan cheese sauce.
Yes, and really the only major difference between the two of those is the type of potato. I started using sweet potatoes for some of my classes where folks had diabetes and they were staying away from the cheese sauce because it had white potatoes in it. And to make them feel better, I did the sweet potatoes. It has a great flavor. It's a little bit different. It's denser and richer. And if I had to say which is my favorite, I don't know. Probably I make my original one the most, so probably it. If you're going to try one, try it. But the sweet potato one is great too. And like I said, it's only the potatoes is the difference.
Oh, nice. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much. It was so fun getting to know you.
Thank you. It was nice to finally get to meet you too.
Oh, great. And thanks for blogging one of my recipes. That was very kind of you.
You are so welcome, and thank you for being willing to share it. And I will definitely get with you in the coming weeks and see if you got one that you wouldn't mind sharing again.
I would be happy to. And any special plans for the holidays? What are you going to be making for Christmas, for example?
Oh, I have ideas. We have 3 family get-togethers, so it's not just one thing. I have to kind of mix it up for the 3 different things. I probably will do a few things. I probably will make my no meatloaf. That one is really good. And I usually serve it with mashed potatoes and gravy because I have a 10-minute brown gravy recipe on there. So more than likely for at least one of the family gatherings, then I'll do the mashed potatoes. I probably will do a repeat of the shepherd pie one too, because it went over so well with my dad and other family members at Thanksgiving. They were really loving it. So I'll probably do it. And I don't know. I haven't. Probably my mousse chocolate pie because it only takes 15 minutes to make it, and it's just really, really easy. So that one I tend to make every holiday. So we'll see.
I'm looking at your best loaf recipe, and you make it with bulgur. That's interesting.
I do, and I know bulgur is sweet, and a lot of people ask about avoiding it. So you could just substitute buckwheat groats. Some people have even told me they've used brown rice in it instead of the bulgur. I even had somebody tell me they used quinoa and loved it, which to me is such a different texture with quinoa. I haven't tried it myself. It just seems like it would be different, but they said they loved it. So there are options to make it gluten-free if you're staying away from bulgur and wheat.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Terri. I hope you have a very happy holiday season.
Thank you. You too. Thanks again for inviting me.
My pleasure.
Take care.
Oh, thank you. Take care. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back in a couple of hours. We have a bonus show today with some tasty Mexican food with Dylan Holmes.